Hi there, this is Mike Quinn, and I play Nine Num in the Star Wars movies, and I want to say hi to the Cantina Club. Yeah, may the force be with you.
We all know round here, Solo always does shots first. Singing Yup No, raise your glass, and sing Yup No.
Hey everybody, we're back for another episode. We did miss last week, so we're going to cover two episodes in this particular show, episodes 5 and 6. Episode 5 was called, help me out here,
The pirate.
The Pirate, thank you. Greedo's favorite new character. And and then episode 6 was called Guns for Hire. So we're going to jump into, first of all, talking about The Pirate. What are our initial thoughts on that episode?
There, I can create a costume as complex as the pirate right here.
But you need moss growing off of your face.
No, this is a different character, totally different character.
Oh, totally different character.
You have no vision.
Nice.
I'll give my initial reaction. I sense this
Don't talk to him. He has a recharger on his face. He's charging station man. Don't talk to him. He's dangerous. You don't have the correct voltage.
Okay, I think
Gundark.
this is going to be a historic episode because I think that I am going to give a lower rating to something than Greedo is what I said.
What?
And the action was great. The special effects were great.
The
I
comedy.
like how it forwarded the plot line. I like the return of some characters. And we'll get into details in a second, but I had some disappointments where it felt like some of in the fight scenes for Navarro, where it felt more like Book of Boba Fett quality.
Okay.
But overall, I really enjoyed it. But I don't think I enjoyed it as much as maybe you guys did from
Okay.
chatting
All
with
right.
you afterwards.
What about you, Greedo?
I think it's a sad commentary that Book of Boba Fett's become a reference point for things that aren't satisfactory.
Subpar,
Like,
yeah.
They bobaed
Cheesy.
that. They bobaed that. You
Boba
needed
Fett.
to put
Boba Fett.
that in the back to tank for a nice dip for a while longer. It wasn't quite finished. No, so we're talking about the pirate.
The Pirate episode, yeah, episode 5.
I liked the pirate. I'm glad they brought the pirates back and resolved them rather than trying to make these semi-lame characters into a recurring villain.
Yeah.
I have a personal beef with Star Wars about villains, and I know you take the Clone Wars as a totality, they have some great villains, but if you were watching it week to week, to me it would be some of the villains would be tedious, just not good enough. But as a totality, years later, you move on to the next one. If you don't, right now we're in the middle of this. I want to see some good villains, and the pirate just wasn't it. So I was very glad to see that stupid Muppet go crashing down and burning. I like the ship. I like the design of everything. I don't get the design of the pirate itself didn't connect to me too much. Like, again, it was HR Puff and stuff, so Bill kind of a little bit, but I appreciate that puppeteers are getting work.
Yeah, anything other than another CGI.
Yeah,
character,
I did also laugh when Grief Karga tried to give an inspiring speech to 20 people at the lava
Yeah.
flats or whatever. People of is this really
Is this
the,
what-
this is the
where are we?
people?
this is it.
Those who could make it, who didn't have something more pressing. Yeah. It's like, I know it's a light turnout, people, but for this apocalypse. But no, I just found that kind of funny. That didn't bother me. So overall I thought it was an excellent episode. Resolved the pirate thing. The Mandalorian, they invited the Mandalorians. It's kind of like getting rid of one bad thing and just inviting another right in and giving them. I don't think they're fully aware they're dealing with a militaristic cult. It's like, you ever pass laws about hoarding weapons, you got a really bad situation on your hands. It's like, we would like to talk to you about all the 5,000 rockets you have on your what are these sparrows of death or whatever from your wrists. They can march in and take over your whole planet. Of course, they're probably going to just leave for Mandalore anyway, so I'm not sure what
Yeah.
And am I the only one also as a Python fan that every time they bring up huge tracts of land?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. I'll view this huge tract of land.
Yeah.
Mando,
Huge.
you don't understand. There's
There's
huge
huge
tracts of
tracts of
land.
land. Yeah, and
Oh,
then when
Grief
Den is
Cargo was
Den
on
is
the
like
lava
low key
flats.
describing it to him later,
He was
it's
on
like
the lava flats when they fired on him from the pirate ship and he died. Wait, oh, he's getting better.
it's getting better.
He's not
Hey, he
quite
says he's
dead.
not
He's
dead.
not quite dead yet.
Well, Grief Cargo, when he miraculously began to turn around, then suddenly and precipitously took an unhealthy drop to his death. And the Mandalorians now rule the planet and the tracts of land. But no, I liked it. I Pontius Pilate again. It's Easter. I can find no fault with this
Find no
episode.
fault, yeah.
Gundark, you may crucify it if that is your justice. But surely this episode was the Son of God. No, it was just a decent episode. It was good.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
had the action, the comedy.
Yeah,
Really
I like the episode a lot. I'm obviously going to give it a higher rating when we get to that than Gundark will.
We don't know what she's giving. A low rating for her is a 9.2.
Well, that's true. A low rating for her is 9.75.
This was totally unacceptable. It's an 8.5. Try harder, people. You're breaking my heart.
But I liked the episode. I really liked that a lot. Not to get into all the details, but I liked obviously I liked the character of Gorian Shard better than Greedo. Anyway, but I liked the breadth of this episode, if that makes any sense. I like the other stories, the side stories of the and I'm terrible at remembering the character names of the X-Wing pilot we've seen recurring throughout the entire series, of him going to Coruscant and going to pick up the Mandalorians later or to alert them, and I just loved all that. That stuff was incredible. Just there's an opening shot of a Y-Wing coming in the land, and I'm just like instantly 10 years old again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the Y-Wing is so great.
Yeah,
I'm easy to please, but that was
me too. I don't know why
people.
I've seen people reviews and people talking saying, and this episode began with some rebels, and I'm like, am I gonna have to sit through a whole subplot with rebels now? I say, what is wrong with you? To me, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And if they give
Wow.
us 45 minutes or an hour, and there's extra 20 minutes in there to spend with the rebels, that's called world building, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
when did that become a terrible thing? So but I know how everybody feels. We're like it's going to intensify when we get to the next episode we talk about it. We feel like we're on the clock, like there's we only get 8 episodes of this, so you want to see more substance.
How I feel about it too. Yeah, exactly.
But the pacing on this was good. It didn't
I
nothing
agree,
overstayed
yeah.
its welcome, and you had a nice little fight that could have easily been Boba'd in. But I will remind you, Boba also had the Rancor fight, which was freaking awesome.
Yes, it
at the end of
was.
that.
Yeah,
Can't
that
take
was
that away
incredibly
from it.
cool. And he had Cad
No.
Bane on that show
No,
too.
yeah.
And I will also say I like how they're letting characters do things without Grogu interfering.
Yeah.
Even in Boba Fett, Grogu calmed the Rancor instead of letting Boba do it or something. He's
Saying
kinda-
that, I was talking to a friend about that episode last night. In fact, this whole season, and she said she kind of felt like it might have been better this season if they had left Grogu with
That
Luke.
would have totally been.
Yeah,
And
that
then
would
it
have.
would-
Yeah, Greedo and I
make
talked
it-
about that. It would have been
yeah.
better just to leave Grogu with Luke for a whole season.
It's like, hey,
Ben
have you
do
ever
his
heard of
thing.
flashbacks? If you want Grogu in it, why don't you have Din Djarin flashback to a memory
Yeah.
of
Right.
Grogu when he's looking at the ball or something, or he sees something that reminds him. Then you can have some Grogu scenes, but
Right.
they obviously feel like he's the prop, the crutch that people will just turn it off. Well, it's not looking encouraging as far as people are turning it off anyway. So
Right.
it's not necessarily working. I have a feeling they're going to take this thing of like, oh, we haven't had enough Grogu this year.
Mhm.
That's why we're losing viewers. It's like,
Not
it's not all about
necessarily,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you
The
may have
show's
to
not called
suffer a little to
The
get
Grogu.
better. Yeah, you may have to push through some dark times to get better, and
Yeah,
the Grogu thing is not a solution right now. So
right.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah,
Grogu
let's
could have
talk- let's
had
talk-
the flashback with Ahmed Best anywhere. He could have had it at Luke's training facility with
right.
Ahsoka. You know
And
what I
that's how
mean?
they could have
Yeah.
included him in this
Mhm.
season is do a side story, show him training with
Yeah,
Luke
they
here
could
and
do a
there,
little more
and have it show
training
him having
scenes, yeah.
flashbacks and things like that. Yeah, that was definitely
Yeah.
a few ways around that.
Yeah.
What were we saying, Gundark?
What about the details of this episode? What did
Uh,
we? I guess run through it. What we had the pirate attack. We had Grief Karga being magistrate.
Right.
This
And
this is where it got me at the beginning when it shows Navarro. Yay!
oh yeah, there you go.
I really have liked that setting,
Mhm.
and it looks like it's a bustling capital city, you know, and he's planning all these renovations with his engineers. And then when the pirates attack and they start shooting down the city, it's like 10 people running away.
Right.
And then
Right.
when they all get
Right.
outside the city, they're supposed to go to the lava flats or whatever to hide. And like Greedo said, Grief Karga addresses
like
the
20 people
population,
there.
and it's 20 people. And
Yeah.
like he sent a message out to the Republic, the New Republic, to get them
Yeah.
to come and help him. That this place was going to fall, that the whole
Yeah.
planet was going to fall, and what 20 people are supposed to represent the whole planet. It just felt like the siege in Boba Fett, where they could have had more extras, you know, to fill out the final battle sequence.
What they
in
should have done
Boba
was
Fett.
he should have looked behind the people, and there was still people coming.
Yes,
You know, like
anything. It could
big
have been
string of
shot
people coming.
differently to make it look like, instead of doing a extra long shot where you see there are only 20 people there, if it
Yeah.
had just been shot a little bit differently, it could have implied that there was much bigger populace.
I am just so amazed that you're hung up on
I
such a
am.
small detail that
Like,
normally you're like,
this is
oh,
so
the population is so small and charming. But they were oozing with charm. So it's perfectly fine. And shut up, Greedo. Well, you're never happy. It's not how many people, it's the quality of the people. The
it's
costumes
not
were
true.
impeccable.
No. I mean, this is a high stakes battle for the series, and I thought they could just give it a little more money to either shoot it differently where it implied
Yeah.
there were more people, or just get a few more people. You know, it was just like that, really, to have those shots of 10 people standing there intercut with
Hang
the
on a second,
incredible drop into
I'm gonna
the
be
city.
Jon Favreau for a second. I'm taking notes of your concerns, and then pretty much just there you go. I'm sure he doesn't care.
Put more money,
Come
put
on.
more money into your battle.
Oh,
scene
more
later.
money. Like there's
Yeah.
not thousands of people that would stand there for nothing. You know,
Yeah.
all of us would go there.
we
Look at the
get
people at
Get
celebration.
1,000 people and invite them in. I don't know.
It wasn't
Something.
the vision. The vision was not what you want. They were following their vision there, and they're an auteur. What's wrong with you? I'm more concerned with the fact that the city's big and sprawling. So obviously people, some follow, it shows you the faith they don't have in him. Some few followed him when he said, let's go. A bunch
Yeah.
more hunkered down is the way I look at it.
Right.
Whatever. Who
Yeah,
cares?
exactly. Yeah.
It's symbolic anyway. I mean, it's like Jesus only had 12. So, but it was, how many does Grief Karga get? But anyway, no, all I'm saying is the bigger question for me is the leadership of Grief Karga in general, because
Oh,
he
yeah.
pissed off these pirates when he could have possibly found another way and shot a bunch of them, and they blew up their ships. And then one pirate ship shows up and they have no defense, like zero. They're not
Yeah.
even firing a pea shooter back. You know, there's no
Yeah.
missiles, no gun emplacement.
Yeah, even
no
my husband
anti-aircraft,
noticed that. He's like, where are
nothing.
the planetary defenses? And
Did he
stuff,
think
you
it was
know?
all just, I mean, but he's like, we're not going to the New Republic because we're doing our own thing. Well, does your own thing not include,
Yeah.
defending yourself in any way,
Preparing
shape, or
for an
form? And
invasion.
you're in a galaxy called Star Wars.
Yeah.
Wars is the second word. Did he miss the memo? Yeah, it seems like the more people you gather with their possessions, the more people out there that he used to hang with would be like, huh,
Yeah.
this is looking like a great place to go rob,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just conveniently sells out to the New Republic on what he said, promising people are going to be independent. Then he sells out to the Mandalorian to whoever shows up. Why didn't the
Yeah.
pirates just show up and go, hey, we'll protect you, for a fee or whatever? And he probably would have had to pay.
Mhm.
Just some of these conflicts don't make sense. There's this whole season when you try to make it make sense, it doesn't really. From just I'm not talking about Star Wars sense. It's a fantasy. You have to let go. I think it just doesn't make any common sense. You can't just sit there on paper and make it work. But you just got to enjoy it. That's my main critique so far, I think, of this season, is that a lot of threads have been kind of all over the place and lost, and the plots and particulars of each episode have begun to show where they've bobaed a lot of them. Boba Fett was the first series where I was really, picking at it, going like, this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense, and how does this hold up? And now it seems like that spread somewhat into the Mandalorian week to week.
Yeah. Well, I think all that was it was obviously just plot manipulation to get somehow to get Mando coming back to Grief Karga, so that you get him contacting Captain Teva from the New Republic, from the Adelphi Rangers, and then he goes to Mando because Coruscant won't help. I did like the scene on Coruscant. I felt like at the beginning of that scene when Captain Teva went to visit Colonel Tuttle, that we were walking into an episode of The Office set in the Star Wars universe. It was like
right.
It was like this rebellious droid. The colonel said, "Don't place that. That's my workspace." So don't he just slams it down there, and then a Rodian comes screaming in, trying to stop someone from coming in without an appointment. I was like, "Oh my god!"
And Dwight is the former Imperial.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
And Jim is the pilot.
So I like that part, and I like the cameo with Colonel Tuttle, and it held up the idea of the New Republic falling into the bureaucratic problem, that all
of administration
have.
Exactly. The
Because
bureaucracy.
he even told him, we're not a rebellion anymore. We have a system now or something, and I'm in requisitions, and you tell me I can only help you with requisitions. Like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's a full-on bureaucracy now. Yeah.
I almost feel like the Republic should have gone to a completely different world besides Coruscant, because they're showing in this series that Coruscant is kind of a soulless bureaucratic place, and it even symbolically looks that way from a distance. Like people coming from this planet are almost like the Borg or something. Like they're not going to care about your forests and your plains. They're going to want everything to look like a big city, and look like order and structure and something they're used to. So there's a natural conflict of worldviews there from most of the galaxy and the less developed galaxy and the overdeveloped galaxy that has become this monster, with its own weird momentum.
It was good. It was good to see Elia Kane again too. That they're keeping it tied in with the
right. I noticed that
plot.
they definitely kept her in there. So I have a feeling we're gonna see Gideon again soon. Because I have a feeling she's basically working. It's kind of his right-hand man. That's my gut feeling anyway.
Yeah. But all of that to bring him to Mando. Oh, but we forgot to mention the scene. If Greedo talked about fans complaining about, am I going to get a whole episode of the Adelphi Rangers or something?
Yeah.
I really like that scene at the Adelphi Ranger station at the bar. I loved the music when they came down to the setting.
And the cameo.
Yes, and the cameo from
Rebels. Getting
Rebels.
Zeb in there from Rebels. That was really cool.
He looked wonderful. I was
I
really
thought they did a
impressed.
great job on that.
Yeah.
Kind of a combination of practical and CGI.
Yeah. It looked totally convincing.
That's why he only had 20 Navarans.
Yeah.
So
right. All the money went to recreating him.
No, we can reenact again the Favreau scene of asking for more extras. Is the scene of the pilot going and asking for help, and the guy's like, "I got all this stuff on my desk." And you got 20. What do you want? I mean, this other show over here's got 5. So
right.
you got 15 more just to work with that.
But that sends Teva to the Mandos, and then I liked that where he approached Mando and he told him, "Look, I know this is not your fight. I just want to let you know your friend is in danger."
Yeah.
And then he just walks out.
And he's like, "All right, see ya." Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do about it, bud? Your friend's in danger.
Right.
It's up to you. I really like that guy, Captain.
Yeah,
Davis.
I do too. Yeah, he's a really good character. I've been enjoying him.
And like he's aware of things, and they're really fleshing him out, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, the people
throughout
who don't want to
the
see it,
season.
we almost got a whole series about it, I think. But one of the many canceled projects. But no, I think I mean all these parts were good. Except for the anemic crowd scene that Gundark can't get over. That she found so offensive.
So let's move into the wrap up of the episode with Bo-Katan and the armor. What did we think of that scene, about how now we've basically gotten the approval by the sort of, I guess we call the armor, the spiritual leader of the
Right.
Mandalorians, that she's pretty much signed off on Bo-Katan being the one to bring all the Mandalorians around the galaxy together again, and allowing her, to take off to remove the helmet and to walk among all Mandalorians, without concealing her identity.
I
What did you guys
loved
think of
that
how
scene.
that went out?
I,
Yeah,
I
I do
love
too.
that. Oh yeah, I love the armor always, and
Yeah.
I've never been disappointed in that character so far.
Mhm.
I loved her fight scene in this when she walked in with the tongs and the hammer. It was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, for all my complaints about the crowd scenes, the fight scenes were wonderful. The special effects for the attack on Navarro by the Mandos was wonderful. The airdrop stuff and the
Oh
funny
yeah, the airdrop was
reaction from the
amazing.
little Azellans or what, the little puppets watching through the window, like, ah, when the Mando feet hit the
Yeah,
ground.
that was great.
but all that was great.
Yeah.
So and that was well done. But having her show up in a wonderful scene where she got to fight, and then we have a scene where she's interacting with Bo-Katan, and we're wondering about the two of them all throughout the scene. Like I'm wondering in that whole scene, what is each of them going to do in regard to the other? How is this going to play out? And I was really surprised when she told her to take off her helmet.
Yeah,
And
I was
the
too.
armor just seems like she has more and more dimensions to me. Like she recognizes that being a fanatic solely devoted to her version of the creed isn't going to win the creed anything, that
Right.
they're going to have to make some
If
kind of
it's going to do anything,
accommodations.
it's going to alienate more
Yeah.
Mandalorians. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to do something. And she sees this
Mhm.
person who was willing to accommodate her creed. And I almost thought that shot me back to that moment in whatever episode that was when they first met, the two of them first met,
Mhm.
and she inducted Bo-Katan into the creed, and she said, and you can leave whenever you want. Do you remember
Yeah.
we pointed out that line?
Yeah.
Like, that's a
Mhm.
weird line to say.
Like
Yeah.
she's got some kind of favoritism towards her.
Yeah, it was almost like she would, with that line, she was foreseeing this or something with that
Right.
moment, that
It,
this
it
might be the
does seem that
person.
way.
Yeah. So and I like still that it's like there's still a kind of caginess to it. I mean, I get a sense that she can withdraw support if necessary, but
She has a
she's
get out of cult free card.
yeah, yeah.
Those
And
are
I don't
hard to
know
come by.
what did y'all make of that? And of Bo-Katan, I still don't quite know where Bo-Katan is going with this. Is her power going to corrupt her, or is she really buying into the idea that she could unite these different groups of Mandalorians?
I think she's buying into it. I think she is. I think she sees this as a new lease on life, because we saw where she came from at the beginning of the season, where she was just in her castle with her droid doing nothing, and just like, this is my life from here on out. I'm not doing anything. I gave up on all my dreams, And now suddenly she's got this chance to actually do what it is she wanted to do to begin with. So I think she's taking it seriously.
But I wondered though, is her motivation her ego, or is it now actually more the desire to unite Mandalorians? Because I'm still kind of concerned about that. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm thinking of her original role on Clone Wars. It's still hard for me to get beyond her trying to kill her sister and things like that, So,
Yeah,
so
I mean, I
I
think it
don't
remains to be
know.
seen. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, but
Yeah.
that she's really buying into this, that all the
It would be a
the
big twist right now. They started off with more ambiguity and they've been implying more that she's buying into it.
yeah.
That she's evolving.
But they destroyed her home, her castle. She has nowhere to go back to. So it's the future or bust at this point. And which is another way, all these arcs typically deconstruct a character and then rebuild them in a certain way. But I found the armor thing very, very odd because it's not consistent with what they established with that character and the Creed Mandalorians from the first couple of seasons, because they even mentioned Bo-Katan saying her rule ended in failure.
Yeah.
She
She
failed her,
lesson.
she didn't follow the way, therefore she failed. And the apostates in the galaxy, we don't want them because they've led to all this destruction. They're the ones that have brought this misery on us that we're in now. So to suddenly just become forgiving and say like the door's open for everyone now, maybe you got to go bathe in the Mandalore, everybody, or something, to show that your commitment. But so this idea that they're going to compromise and allow both ways is really odd. Like I don't get it. Maybe the news that Mandalore is open for the taking.
I think that plays a role into it because I think
Yeah.
that the armor sees this as their last chance to really reclaim their
They're-
culture, get back
yeah.
to their planet, and kind of have a last shot at starting
And
everything up
there
again.
could have been a prophecy about when the mythosaur is sighted, then the ways will become one or something. Maybe
It
the
could
armor
be
is doing.
that, yeah,
But
exactly.
I think it lends credence to this theory that the armor is a pre-existing character. And that's why we've never seen her face. Because it's
Someone from
awfully
Clone
odd.
Wars, you mean?
Yeah. Because
Oh,
it's
wow.
awfully odd that she would show this kind of manipulation
Willingness
for
to-
Bo-Katan.
yeah.
Either she's manipulating her in a bad way or she's manipulating her in a good way. But either way, it's you could see this manipulation, but it's either favoritism or she's setting her up for something and using her. So she could be either an old ally, old enemy. But I think it's lending credence to that. But I hope they don't do that because I'm tired of the galaxy being so small. The armor is a good character we've established. I don't think it needs to be she needs to be a pre-existing character.
Yeah.
And also yeah, that's my main issue is I just don't see it as being consistent. And I'm not sure why a lot of things that we think are left as a mystery that will be explained later, a lot of times don't get explained and they just get forgotten about. Like the fobs, tracking fobs and all that.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make sense to this galaxy? So that was the end of that was kind of my main little pet peeve about the episode was it did advance the plot. I'm not sure. We'll go into the next episode, but I'm not sure about the Bo-Katan storyline at this point. Whether I'm totally 1000% in on it or not.
All
For
right,
reasons I'll
let's
explain
go ahead and get
later.
into our ratings there for the episode 5, The Pirate. I'll go first. I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm going to give it a 9. I really liked it. Thought it was excellent. I got a really good vibe from this.
I'll give it an 8 because it delivered everything that I always say I want from a Mandalorian episode.
Yeah, that's
so
this is what I
really
wanted
be a
before I even knew the show
hypocrite,
existed.
Yeah,
Is this kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay. And then Gundark gives it a 1, so let's move on.
I gave it a 7 originally. I watched it 3 times and I give it a 7.5.
7.5, okay.
She originally gave it a 20, but then subtracted 1 for each one
Yes,
of the
for
missing.
every
Each
one
one
of
of the
those
missing
townspeople
peasants.
They were all just very short. They just didn't. They were below the kneecaps of everyone else in the shot.
No, it had a whole lot. It had a lot going on for it that was great. And my husband was mad at me that I gave it a lower rating. He's not the biggest Star Wars fan. He was like, "What's
he
wrong
liked
with
it.
you?" Yeah, he really loved it.
Yeah, I did too. So I'm right there with him. Okay, so
I was
those are our
very glad to
ratings
see the pirate killed, though. I mean, he did crash. He could have lived, I guess, but I'm hoping he's dead.
from that fireball. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, he was a good enough villain for a couple of episodes, just a mini villain. But let's not build any legends around this guy.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I have no. I like the character, but I don't think he needs to be the big baddie or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah. All right, so that's episode 5, The Pirate. So now we're going to move into episode 6, Guns for Hire. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, and it actually just came to me today that out of every single Mandalorian episode, this is the first one not named the something.
Huh.
Oh.
Yeah, out of like 22 episodes, every single episode is like
Huh.
the child, the magistrate,
you're
the
right.
this, the that. Every single, I even went to check to make sure. I'm like, yep, every single one of them. Except for some reason, this episode is called Guns for Hire. So don't know why they switched from their formula. Not that it matters.
Well, that's it. It's the end. It's over.
It's all over. Let's just
Just
close
stop
up.
watching. I can't believe they made such a colossal mistake.
And we're done.
Yeah.
Tell her to stop watching.
Just walk away.
Yeah.
Leave the gasoline, Carillion. Walk away. Uh,
All right, so first impressions on Guns for Hire. For me, I'll go ahead and start this time.
I thought that was an 80s band.
Yeah, might as well have been. For me, this was basically a Clone Wars episode, and I don't mean that pejoratively because everybody here knows that I love the Clone Wars, but it did it had the vibe of a Clone Wars episode brought to life. Make of that what you will, but you know, because it did multiple
It
things.
did.
It was it advanced the plot, and it also was a put a bow on it one episode excursion, you know, to
Mhm.
a new planet, almost like a Star Trek episode in a way. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a new planet, new civilization. We have a problem, let's fix it, and then we move on, and it's done. You know, we put a bow on it. But I liked the episode to a certain degree, but it definitely had some issues. It came off as to me as a filler episode in a lot of ways. But we did get some plot advancement, so I did like it for that aspect. All right, what about you, Greedo?
I'm torn
Yep.
like an old sweater. I'm I don't know what to make of this episode totally.
I don't either.
I was psyched. Realized it was Wednesday. It was like, and for once I got to watch before you guys did. So that was like a extra special treat for me. Like, I'm all, you know, ready to Mando out, watch it. And
Yeah.
and freaking Lizzo and Jack Black is just not what I expected.
Not at all.
And yeah, but like you, I recognize it for what it is. It is all these things have now become Star Wars. We like to think of the original trilogy as Star Wars. And we have our definition, our mind of what Star Wars even feels like. Like, I don't know exactly what Star Wars is, but I know what it isn't, you know, when I feel something wrong.
Yeah.
But let's face it, it's all changed now. You know, I can't even trust my own feelings on the prequels anymore because there are so many people out there that adore them. You know, I didn't watch the Clone Wars for years because it wasn't my thing. Well, I was completely wrong. Clone Wars is freaking awesome. But it's different. It's everything. All these things are different, and isn't that what a lot of people want? Is something different. But the Mandalorian is not different. It's always the same. And I felt like this episode was a tribute to that part of Star Wars, like you're saying, the little bit of world building, the kind of goofy, charming characters, the nod to the fact that this is a vast galaxy, that there's all different ways of looking at it and different types of people in it. And sometimes you're going to see them whether you want to or not. You know, we're going to parade them in front of you. And so it didn't stoop as low for Star Wars as like being Guardians of the Galaxy type humor or anything. These characters could exist in the Star Wars world, and it was nice seeing some people happy for a change, you know, and seeming to have most of their stuff together, even though their society is fatally flawed, as we can see, and they can't really see it. But I was telling Carillion, to me, this episode was about showing, this whole season, it's been about showing the different points of view coming out of the Galactic Civil War. And here we have an example of people who have found a way to make it work. They're not by fleeing to the Outer Rim. They actually have an former Imperial helping lead them. But he has successfully changed his ways, done the rehabilitation program, and has successfully changed his ways.
Right.
And they're allowing him to reinvent himself as someone who cares about others and is a good leader. And they're embracing him in their culture, and they've built something different that looks successful on the outside, and as far as they're concerned is successful. But they still have elements within who won't let go of the past and are still at war, which is what you know, the Marty McFly, the professor from Christopher Lloyd. That's what he represented. It was painted in very broad strokes, so it very, very, very close to parody. But they did give us a nudge. It was okay. It was parody, but they gave us a nudge and a wink when she you know, tased him, and he was never a serious threat. And that's part of the problem with the Mandalorian. Is we have no villains. We still have no villains. It's so frustrating. There's no sense of harm at all. Like, no one's getting hurt.
The one even the bad guy. Yeah.
Even the bad guy, they're like, maybe someday I'll learn forgiveness or whatever, and they just trot him off. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't even understand why he was doing what he was doing, how that has
Yeah,
anything to do with
no.
separatism
Yeah, they really didn't
or
explain
Count
that very
Dooku.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, why you would pick Count Dooku to be your hero, you know? But I guess I could see Count Dooku tried to kidnap Palpatine before Palpatine became evil. So if you looked at here, Dooku could be a failed hero. Like, man, if Dooku had only gotten Palpatine, then we wouldn't have had the Empire. But if you didn't know the ins and outs. Anyway, I'll let Gundark talk now. That's
Yeah, I'm of the same feeling, I think, as you, Greedo. I just didn't quite know what to do. At first,
but the charm, Gundark, the charm.
no,
Aren't you all about the
the
charm?
more, when the hokiness goes over the top, it was a bit too hokey for me. And the scenes with, and I love the guest stars. I don't mind. My husband and I were real excited to see Jack Black. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
Jack Black, you know.
That's what
And
I
then
said. Like, is that
Christopher
Jack Black?
Lloyd, like,
Yeah.
oh, we have Christopher Lloyd. But then they just gave them some hokey lines, you know, and they didn't really have much significance. And when the Mandos arrive and meet those characters for the first time, it's just 5 minutes of exposition, really awkward exposition. Oh yes, and I'm the Duchess, and I did this and this, and my husband, he was a former imperial. Let me just address the bantha in the room right off and say I'm a former imperial. And it's just like
Yeah.
I'm reading a paragraph of my history or
Yeah.
whatever to these people. You know, it was awkwardly written, and I wanted,
But
if
the
I'm going to have
charm.
if I'm going to have Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd in an
Mhm.
episode together, I want more of an edge. So yes, I want hokey charm and all that, but I want it with an edge, and there was no edge to any of that. But
Well,
I did like
go
seeing
put on a
Lizzo
Tenacious D song and you'll get your edge.
and
That's what I think is hilarious. Like Jack Black is considered a family-friendly figure because of a couple of movies he did.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you know, Gina Carano is canceled, but Jack Black has all these
Yeah.
songs about every orifice in the human body, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
that he sings with conviction, you know, and
But it's
yet
nothing
somehow
to do
they
that.
trot him out as a family-friendly character, you know.
The actors were great. I have no fault with. I loved seeing Lizzo, Jack Black, and Christopher Lloyd in the Star Wars episode, and I loved that Lizzo was so excited to be in it because of her dad's love of Star Wars. I mean, that was really nice. And
I didn't know that.
but they didn't. Yeah, she gave a wonderful story about how her dad introduced her to Star Wars. That those were his favorite movies, and this was why she wanted to do this in honor of his memory, and all of that was really neat. But they should have given him better material and it just a little bit better writing to give him a little bit of
Yeah.
snazz. Like whenever the Mandos first enter and meet them while they're having all their guests, their aristocracy at the table or whatever, they're like giving their exposition where they're, oh, everything is happy here, you know, and we're perfect and we are in a loving marriage. And then Jack Black says, let's go see the view. You know, and that's when I thought the dark stuff was going to happen.
Right.
Took him away. Like, but it still was just like, I don't know, hokey after that. So those scenes were just too silly to me. Although I did like the investigation with Bo-Katan and Mando, and
Yeah.
I loved the stuff about the droids. So
Yeah, that was very much the part of the that was really like Clone Wars episode like.
Yeah, the
I could see
investigation
Anakin
was
and
cool.
Ahsoka going around and doing the
Yeah.
investigation and doing the chase and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and production values also were top notch. The world looked convincing. It looked like some of it looked like Ralph McQuarrie paintings, like the moments when what was it, Bo-Katan and Mando got off of that shuttle at the Dome City, and there are the two droids, they're Imperial droids, and R2 and like a C3PO unit standing there. It looked like it just came right out of a Ralph McQuarrie painting. Most
Yeah.
of the stuff involving the droids did.
Mhm.
So that was cool, but overall,
Just as an aside, I thought the blue 3PO thing was just incredibly cool looking. That color,
Yeah.
I don't know whether I thought that was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
badass looking on
Yeah.
that
yeah,
droid.
that was cool. All the droids were
And
really-
whoever was wearing it, if it wasn't CGI, was doing a great 3PO impersonation. You know, like
Right, yeah,
Daniel's
it had the
movements.
mannerisms down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do we
Um,
have any other specific things like how did it begin? We just skipped the beginning. There was like this little prologue with
Well,
the,
the love story between the fish and the squid,
I thought
which
that
are
was also
mortal enemies in
silly.
Clone Wars.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know. I thought that was also silly. It wasn't, I don't know.
I pulled my eyes out of my head and rolled them across the floor. I wanted to roll my eyes so hard it just wouldn't. Biologically, it wasn't possible. I had to rip them out and just hurl them with all my strength, bouncing across the floor, and then I put them back in. Yeah, that was a bad start for me. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But the Mandalorians almost made it. It's like the Mandalorians are like, yeah, you guys are the comic relief, and we're the militaristic cartoon characters.
Yeah.
You're the comic relief cartoon characters, and we're the badass ones. So
Finish
remember your
business
place.
And the design of the ship was cool. I liked the captain who is able to be in the water and then just her tank goes down and she's in her captain's chair.
She's
That
sitting
was
right there in
cool.
her
That
seat.
was
Yeah,
some
that was really
awesome
neat.
production. Yeah,
That was a
Yeah.
I have a
really cool
feeling. I
thing
bet
to
you
do.
that's directly from Clone Wars. The Clone Wars had lots of cool design touches
Yeah.
like that.
That's why, like I said,
and
this
things.
definitely felt like a Clone Wars episode to me. A
Yeah,
lot
so
of the
it
aspects
was
of
that
it.
was like a summary really of the episode. Awesome production design, but
Mhm.
too much hokiness, at least to me.
Mhm.
But
was really
when
well
they
done.
arrive on planet Plaisir, anything else about when they meet Jack Black and Lizzo?
I think it would have been. I think it would have been cool if they had Jack Black be a little more realistic and menace, almost an edge to him, like you said.
Yeah.
Where he could be quick to humor, but quick to anger or something. And he has like a really dark past. Like he did some bad things when he was there.
Yeah.
Instead, it was just like, oh, I was part of a system. I was a planning administrator or something. They didn't really go into it. I think if he had really had a dark history and they had forgiven him for that, that would have been significant. Instead, they really didn't have time or the inclination to go there. It was played more for comedy. I also thought, you want to take Jack Black and Lizzo and put them on the fat planet. It's like a little too on the nose, wasn't it? Like, why don't you just go ahead and make her or him, related to Porkins while you're at it? Just just go all out. You just go, yeah. What's that statue there? Oh, that's Jed Porkins. Jed Porkins, our ancestor,
our forefather. Yeah.
He's like eating a turkey leg or something,
That's another
in the
thing that
statue.
all the Star Wars planets seem to be like devoted to one thing, like planet Plaisir, and it's like their city is Plaisir, and the whole planet is that, or like
that's the way.
It
Yeah,
obviously was.
That
There was
way,
for a whole planet.
they have some really killer potential for golf courses on that planet. It looked like. They're missing out. That's where they could really bring people in.
One thing Star Wars doesn't have is complex ecosystems.
No. You just bring in one baby Yoda, and pretty soon your whole planet is overrun with this feral, non-indigenous predator. But it kills all your wildlife, leaves it a wasteland. But yeah, I forget what I was going to say, but I was going to say later on when they encounter the one competent scientist in the entire Star Wars universe, like conveniently, it's like, we have a mystery here, most competent scientist in the universe with the best computer that has ever existed for analyzing random things. I would have been like, really? You solved it that fast? Really? Can you tell me, can you analyze this child's blood real quick and see what is the big deal with that? And can you please tell me my heritage and how is Beskar made? And I've got this fob that used to track things, like completely flawlessly, and now it doesn't work. Can you tell me what's up with that? I would have been like, using that scientist, definitely hired them away, like, come with us, you're the only competent scientist in all of Star Wars. But who isn't insane. But yeah,
speaking of the mystery, I like the kind of, I saw comparisons to Law and Order on several think pieces online, and I kind of like the good cop bad cop dynamic of
the Ugnaughts were awesome.
The Ugnaughts
were a good
that was
touch.
such a great scene. Yeah.
And
I love that they brought Queel back into the whole discussion and kind of used that relationship he had with him to be the sort of the thing that broke the ice between them and got them communicating.
And that one not their leader, wasn't he incredible? I loved his face. There was something about the way he looked, you could see his skepticism and like he's on the edge of maybe.
They were really emoting really well with the mask.
I think some of those masks were probably from Nick Nolte's
Probably,
you know, like they were
yeah.
extras that
Yeah.
they changed
Extras
slightly
they
because
used, right?
they did have they all some of them look
Very
like
They did
simple,
look
basically
a lot
like
like
an Ugnaught Nolte still.
Not multi.
Yeah.
But that was a wonderful scene. And then the scene where they go to, my favorite was the droid bar. I love
I
the
love the
droid bar
droid bar. Yeah, the
scene.
droid
Okay.
bar was fantastic.
They were going to it, and my husband is like, we're looking at each other, and we were already like, oh, this episode was like, wah, wah. And they're like, what? I asked him, why do droids need a bar? And then they're walking, Bo-Katan and Mando walk into a bar, you know.
Yeah. Two
One-
Mandalorians walk into a bar.
and, and one of them, Mando's long-standing animosity toward droids comes back again, and he
Mhm.
plays bad cop with the
Right.
bartender. And but the
Right.
moment when the droids, when they suddenly became human, that was just striking to me. I didn't expect that at all. When they said, "We're afraid," we're afraid of what? Well, we're going to be replaced by humans. And then the camera just scanned all of them. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah,
like
it's like
something
the
out of
exact
Wall-E or
opposite of what.
something.
Yeah.
I did see the Wally parallel with the
Yeah.
fat planet and the droids
Well,
and all that.
I was going to make the same
Yeah.
comparison when you were
And the
talking, but I
people
forgot it.
being
But yeah,
hurt by the
it
thing that makes
very
them
much
rich
was
and
like
everything.
the
Yeah.
Wally, because
And they
everybody
were-
just did leisure and got fat,
Yeah.
basically.
And
It
they
was
were
like-
very Asimov too. They weren't like rebellious droids. They were wanting to serve, and they had compassion
Yeah.
on humans that had much shorter lifespans than they did.
So you
It's
liked
just
that.
that-
You
I
liked that
liked
reveal.
Yeah,
I did
was
too, but I
surprised.
also thought it went a little like I don't know that it's consistent with where that whole thing with droids should be going or has been going.
Yeah, I've read people complaining about that, but I
Yeah,
don't know that I
but
agree.
it was more like saying these droids are stereotyped, especially by Din Djarin, as something of menace when they actually have good intentions and it's
Yeah.
not their fault.
I
So
felt
it's
like
more
it was an
society's
Asimov
fault than
moment.
their fault. Yeah, that
It was an
too.
Asimov moment where there's an overall sense that droids can be companions to humans. They're just different life forms, you know, that they can be good companions to humans. But instead of just droids that are angry and trying to become robot overlords or something like that, which is where
Yeah.
that episode
Yeah,
could have been
everything
Well,
always
it's
go
more
evil
like
or something, yeah.
it's more like they're so exploited and everything that it was sad that they were
Yeah,
happy
that
with
they were
that.
willing-
You know,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
their biggest fear is being replaced. They're willing to do anything rather than be replaced. Which they will continue to just be objects and treated like crap in the Star Wars galaxy as long as that goes on. But so yeah, I thought, you know, I was not to throw back to one of the worst parts of Solo, but that implication has already been put in
Yeah.
a lot of places in Star Wars that perhaps the droids aren't 100% happy with with their treatment and stuff. So, but on this one planet, you know, I guess the droids were happy enough, and they were trying to solve a mystery, and it was like kind of just trying to be a reveal of a red herring that hey, the droids are good, they're not
Yeah.
bad, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the droids would be good if they were more good to themselves and not just to people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't see that as being necessarily all virtuous that they're willing to be basically slaves. You know, it's
No,
like
I don't.
they'd be
either,
more
but,
virtuous
the-
trying
maybe
to
the
elevate
fault
themselves.
to find with that is they introduced that without going any further with it or implying a future
Right.
for it.
Right.
But because that is very Asimov, that robots that they serve and they're happy to serve, but they're also, like you said, exploited. And then how do they deal with their own exploitation, and how do humans deal with that when they begin to realize that they're exploiting these beings that might have their own value as their own entities? And it seems to like a little bit head there, and then it just kind of drops it. So
Mhm.
yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, but the droid bar was cool. I liked all the
Yeah.
characters in there.
Loved it.
Yeah, that was a neat part. The little mystery didn't really need to be expanded upon too much. The only thing I found lacking in it was the motivations of the guy behind it. And like I told Carillion, as soon as we saw him in the episode early on, I was like, "There's your bad guy." You know, I mean,
Yeah.
instantly,
Christopher Lloyd,
it's like,
yeah.
why else is he there? Which is very
Yeah.
much like a Law and Order episode 2. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
if someone gets a few seconds extra screen time, you know they're going to be back later. You know,
Yeah.
and or if it's someone you recognize as always being on these shows, then you know it's the bad guy. But yeah, so the mystery was a little lacking to me, but they played a lot of that stuff for humor, like when she said politics, you know, and she cut him off on his rant.
Mhm.
But so anything else to say about that part of the story other than we have mixed emotions on it?
No, I don't think
Carillion,
so.
you liked it the best, I think.
Yeah, probably so.
Because it was a Clone Wars
Because
thing.
some of the reminiscence of Clone Wars episodes, and I like the world building aspect of the
Yeah.
episode, even though there was definitely a certain element of filler in there.
My only statement that I'll make, final statement on that is, and it may not be fair, is if we had 12 episodes or 16 episodes,
Yeah,
I wouldn't even be sweating it.
right.
But I
Yeah.
am looking at the clock, going like,
Yeah.
we've got at most two, if they're very generous, 2.5 hours left. Probably not. Probably one episode will be 30 to 40 minutes, and the next one will be a little over an hour or something, if we go by history. And that's just what made me sweat bullets during that time. I was like, as soon as I saw the description, it said the Mandalorian visits an opulent world. I was like, filler,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was like, but maybe not, maybe that's where Moff Gideon's hiding,
Yeah.
and no,
So let's
not
go
so
on
much.
with to the end of the episode, to where we have some non-filler aspects. We actually now have come up with an explanation for how the dark saber gets back into the possession of Bo-Katan. What did we think about how that played out?
I like the fight, the actual fight.
The fight was
scene.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
it exceeded my expectations. I
That
was
was
I was
such a
almost ready to
Mando fight,
cringe. I was almost ready to cringe because the rest of the episode, I was like, "Ooh, I hope this is decent."
Yeah. They
And
got to
it
use
was
all
good.
their weaponry. It was really intense.
right? The
It was
grappling
well
hooks and all kinds of
choreographed.
stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't Game of Thrones fight level, because
No.
if so, somebody would ended up with the hilt sticking out of their eye socket or something.
But that was good. But I don't know what I think about the saber being given back to Bo-Katan. I was really thinking that Mando and Bo-Katan were going to have to fight over it at some point. And it just
Mhm.
seemed to me a little too easy that it just goes back to her after, we've had like a whole season in between, it seems, the episode where she used it. And
Yeah.
now we're getting the other Mandos are like, well, why did we? I
Yeah,
don't
why did we
know.
wait? Yeah.
Yeah, why did we wait to do this? So
Yeah, no, it did seem a little sort of like the writers in the room. Well, I can't figure out how to give it back to her. Let's just do this. You
yeah,
know?
just have
Yeah.
Mando wave it away.
It's
Yeah,
like they were. It's like
exactly.
they were on Reddit and they said, "Oh, someone explains here. Yeah, he defeated. She defeated the person who defeated him, and
So therefore, it becomes
let's
hers.
just go with that." Yeah.
I mean, couldn't there? I don't know. Couldn't it have been something else? Or are they saving a fight between Mando and Bo-Katan until later?
I will also say Clone Wars was more vicious. In
Oh
Clone
yeah,
Wars,
oh yeah.
that fight would have
Yes.
ended with someone dead or maimed.
Someone would have been dead or
Yeah.
maimed. Yeah.
Maybe multiple people. I mean, it
Mhm.
would have been, he would have had a faction behind him that refused to bend or something, and it would have turned into the Clone Wars went for it. I mean, it
Yeah.
had some dark stuff and some people really committed to their cause. This seems
Yeah.
more like people flailing around like, what's my cause today? We're guns for hire. Well, we did that for 2 weeks, and now we're moving back to the thing we already failed at before, following Bo-Katan with the dark saber. And what if every single person there is like, no, F this, and just lines up, I challenge you, I challenge you, I challenge you. Somebody's gonna get lucky at some point, right?
Yeah.
To tire out and get the dark saber. But anyway, all that, the Mandalorian stuff doesn't really totally make sense. But I did like she defended Din Djarin and said she's putting the seed in their heads that we're gonna have to let go of our family trees and accept a more wider, nuanced view of the Force or whatever.
Yeah.
If you want to study the great Mandalore. But yeah, the fight was great, and I have mixed feelings about it because I just wish Din Djarin had more to do in his own show.
Yeah.
I know, as opposed to just watching everything happen around him.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
they got to establish this stuff because Bo-Katan doesn't have her own show, and they're doing a good job of making them a team and likable and everything.
Mhm.
But that scene where anytime anybody pulls out the dark saber and poses, it's a good moment. It was a good moment, but I had mixed feelings because I'm like, I've been getting this feeling that this was supposed to be his storyline and Grogu was supposed to be with Luke.
Yeah.
And they panicked and rewrote it. Grogu's back, therefore we can't have Din Djarin sit on the throne of Mandalore very long, or he can't even win it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we have to give this storyline to someone else who can't, and we, Pedro Pascal's filming Last of Us.
Yeah,
We can't show his
yes.
face, so we need
Right.
to give the main storyline to a person who can show their face. I'm being cynical, but
No, I have that feeling too.
I feel a little
Yeah.
manipulated, But I like Bo-Katan, and it's good character, good story. But I feel like they've already failed at this, so I'm not sure why they're getting excited about trying it again.
Do they don't even know that Mandalore is
I thought she'd lead with
like,
that.
oh, she did? Okay.
I thought she would.
forgot.
I don't remember her saying. I think she said it's time for us to reclaim our world, but I don't think she said, by the way, we've been there.
Yeah,
And
it's livable or whatever.
Yeah, bring your brooms. We need to sweep up, but it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
we'll have
so,
to kill some troglodytes.
yeah. All right. What about ratings? Let's go ahead and rate this episode.
I give this one a 5.
5.
And it's
Wow.
and it's
okay.
largely because of the production values and the droid bar.
Okay.
The Mandalorian charm bullets are just bouncing off your Beskar.
I
I never thought I would
Not
see the
working.
day.
It's not working right now.
You plunged from a 10 to a what did you give the last one? And
7.5.
7.5 now to
Yeah.
a 5. It's the end. It's over. We're like,
Yeah, they're canceling Mandalorian. as we
Yeah.
speak.
Are they going to be rated
This is like-
higher than mine?
this is like plunging down the Mandalorian
wow.
roller coaster, and you see the track ahead at the bottom has been busted. You're just gonna fly off the end. It's a sign of the apocalypse. I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
Because it's as much me finding fault with it as it is. I can see this is personal taste to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm giving it a 6.5. Again, like I already said, it's a lot. There was a lot. Yeah, that's the first time I think Gundark's ever been the lowest of the ratings, and that's 2 episodes in a row now. 2 in a row where Greedo's rated an episode higher than Gundark.
She's taking my crown of negativity.
That's right.
I'm gonna be Princess Negative.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've only got 2 episodes left, so they need to get moving.
Oh, we did forget to mention at the end of the previous episode the Moff Gideon reveal, because this should lead into the final 2
the
episodes.
shuttle.
You're right. Completely forgot to mention
Yes.
that. But yeah, we had
Space shuttle. What am I saying?
the shot of the shuttle that had been broken into, and obviously Moff Gideon had
Of
been
course, it's a space
rescued.
shuttle in Star Wars. Everything
And
goes
he had
into
been
space.
extracted by Mandalorians. I mean, what was
Or
going
so
on
we're
with
led to
that?
believe. I think the whole thing's a setup, but we'll see.
I don't know though. My husband says something interesting, and it's funny, this stuff coming from my husband. He's not even a good Star Wars fan, but he's like, "Well, Moff Gideon had the dark saber at the beginning of the show, and we don't know where he got it or
Yeah,
what he
that's
did
true.
with it. Maybe there is a cohort of Mandalorians that have been following him
That's
at the time
actually,
that he
I
had the
didn't even
dark
think of that. That's a
saber.
great
Who
theory.
came back for him, and I'm like, oh, well, I
Yep.
didn't even thought of that. Maybe so.
Didn't even think of that. You're
So
right.
maybe we might have Mandos fighting each other still.
Mhm.
I think I brought that up when Curly and I were talking about the episode. We didn't record it. It wasn't a podcast. We were just talking about it.
Yeah.
That the possibilities for Gideon is that Mandalorians came and got him, who are either so cynical and jaded that they're basically following him, 1, because of the dark saber, but 2, because they're mercenaries at this point. And once he destroyed their culture, they don't even care that they're serving him. That's how jaded they are. Or it was left as a false clue to cause some kind of problem between the Republic and the
Right.
Mandalorian
Which is
remnant.
my gut's telling me it's that. Doesn't mean it is, but my gut's telling me
Oh,
that's an
especially
intentional
because
setup.
there was that exposition drop in there at the end of the episode 6 where the Duchess and Captain Bombardier or whatever his name was said that if this is diplomatic, we will agitate with the Republic to get Mandalore recognized as part of the new Republic.
Yeah.
So
And also the other possibility is that it is Mandalorians getting revenge on Moff Gideon himself. And they're holding him prisoner somewhere
Yeah, it could be
because
that option as well. Yeah.
they didn't like the idea of him going on trial. They wanted to mete out their own justice to him.
Mando justice.
I think Moff Gideon's behind it. I think Moff Gideon's got to be behind everything small villainy we've seen, every petty villainy we've seen in this season. And I think there's a chance Moff Gideon's going to maybe either have Mandalorian followers or have a whole new suit of armor himself. There's also that possibility that he's already been seen, but he's helmeted or something. I'm always looking for these weird reveals. I don't think that could possibly happen. It would be too cheesy, but it's either that. I think either some Mandalorian that they're going to try to go and unite, have him as a prisoner, or some Mandalorians that they're going to go and try to recruit. He's leading them, and they don't know it, and they're going to get entrapped. I just don't. I don't understand the conflict to begin with. Why was Moff Gideon so dead set on meddling in Mandalorian culture? Like, what was the big picture for him?
Yeah.
We know he was doing Dark Troopers. We know he's interested in super alloys and super droids, and then whatever the Grogu angle was. But the Grogu angle seems completely separate from the original Mandalore.
Yeah, agreed.
Vendetta. So was he just following the Empire's orders when he put Mandalore down? Or was he doing his own thing as a Moff for some reason? Anyway, none of that's. I don't know that any of that's ever going to get explained. But
yeah.
But I have a feeling he's not just a prisoner. I think he's behind it. If he's a prisoner, and somehow they have to, then the storyline will be that somehow they have to work together, and Din Djarin will free him because Gideon will have something he absolutely needs, and he'll trade it for his freedom. That would be an interesting story as well, because Gideon's clever. It's like he knows his opponents. He's like mini Thrawn. He knows his opponents, so he knows how to figure out their weaknesses. The idea. And I'm starting to think that Dr. Pershing. I was thinking that Pershing was still going to be a character involved in this, like Gideon would want to use him. But I'm starting to think they just scrambled his brain so that he couldn't give that technology to the Republic.
And then we're done with him.
Maybe,
yeah. Like he was talking too loud, about, I'd love to replicate your organs and all this stuff by using the stuff I gave the Empire.
That is true, because he was
no.
huge, that big talk to the audience and everything.
Yeah, it's like, no, we need no mention of this stuff ever.
Right.
Or if it does, it needs to come from a drooling idiot. No one will believe.
Exactly. All right, final thoughts?
One episode I enjoyed a lot. Another one I had a lot of reservations about.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the final two. I hope that they will.
Same here. I'll be interested to see how they leave it off this season. If they have any new big cliffhanger they may leave us on this time. So should be interesting. But that's going to do it for this episode. The wrap up of episodes 5 and 6 of Mandalorian season 3. We'll be back next week for episode 6, or excuse me, 7. Sorry, episode 7, and we'll go from there. But hit like, subscribe, and leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you thought. We'll see you next time. Couple of polarizing type episodes.
Do you know anybody else who uses Beskar weapons?
Hey, what's going on?
What is
Trying to think. I was trying to think
The
about
implication
More
could be
wretched hive, scum and villainy.
I don't think it's more fan.
this isn't going to be easy.
Good luck.
We must be cautious.
Sing yum nub. Sing yum nub. Come on, sing yum nub. Singing yum nub. Yum nub. Singing yum nub. At the Cantina Club.
I wanted to ask you guys too. So in honor of Celebration, would you prefer that I kind of did the intro and the outro as if I'm on the live stage at Celebration? Because that's not fake at all.
No.
Everybody, all right, Star Wars guys, yeah. Yeah.
I want to tell you, I want to introduce you to Carillion Traitor.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, I just want to take a second and just look around. This means so much to me.
Gundark, I just want to thank you
No,
because
no,
without
Greedo.
you, none of this that I enjoy to do would be able to be done. None of this would be possible.
You
That's
know,
right. Give
I
yourself a
know.
round of applaud for yourself.
Yeah,
There.
absolutely. I mean, I just want to say that I know Rhodians get a bad rap. But to me, you'll always be my Rhodian, man.
Oh, let's record this moment.
Oh,
It is a joke.
I'm glad I wasn't drinking my coffee of that one.
McClunky. Then why did you shoot me?
When Rhodians choke, does coffee come flying out their snout?
No,
Yeah.
they're